But I want to talk about the Thomas Massie race because you were also covering the Massie campaign just yesterday. The president going back and forth. That district is so interesting because Trump received about 67% of that district vote in 2024. Massie has been running unopposed since 2024, and he got such a big vote there. So from the people you talked with yesterday in that district, they were pretty much matching the results of the polls we've been watching.
Yeah, Doug, I mean, so much of this race, like many, comes down to turnout, right? Who turns out for this race? We know that 4th Congressional in Kentucky tends to be lower voter turnout. They tend not to get as much media coverage as maybe some other areas like Lexington and Louisville, but that is not the case in this race because, as you said, the president has weighed into this. He badly wants Thomas Massie out of Congress, off Capitol Hill, and has gone as far as not just to endorse Ed Gallrein, but to your point, you guys talked about this, at the top of the show, to send his Secretary of War to Kentucky to stump for Gallrein. This is, in many ways uncharted territory. You've talked about it, sort of the national attention of this is something we haven't seen in several years. And based on some of the polling we're seeing, a lot of this is going to come down to, do we see more young Republicans go to the polls? Because they tend to, the data show, favor Thomas Massie, or is it going to be what we typically see on primary nights, which is the 55 and up voters tend to sort of dominate that field? If that is the case, the data show, again, that actually favors Ed Gallrein in this race. So in many ways, this is a race of party unity versus ideology. And we're going to have to see exactly how this shakes out. Right now, of course, polls closing just in the last 40 minutes. But we know in West Kentucky, for example, many of those voters are on Central Time. So those votes we won't be able to really count until after 7 o'clock. Will that matter, though, right? When it comes to some of these other races, U.S. Senate, for example, could that be called earlier? We'll have to see. Andy Barr off to an early lead, according to those first 10,000 votes or so. But it's so early. We're counting early voting. There's still a lot to kind of be, weigh in on this. Of course, the Secretary of State here in Kentucky says that voter turnout is higher than the usual primary. He expected north of 20%. So that could weigh into all this as well.
Well, Isaiah, you and I know where the biggest audience, one of the biggest audiences is going to be tonight. That's 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So Donald Trump, how did Thomas Massie lose such a big lead in the polls? What has changed? And of course, there's a lot on the line for Donald Trump here. Can he continue a string of victories that even go back to Bill Cassidy in Louisiana from Saturday?
Well, Doug, it's kind of a multifaceted answer, and Thomas Massie will admit this to you himself. If you talk to him, he'll say that typically from what they see in their internal polling, a Trump endorsement in their district would move the needle about 20 points. He says he typically wins primaries, as we've seen in the past, about 80-20. So a Trump endorsement alone, this is Massie's argument, would not make the race, in his words, as competitive as it is now. He believes what is sort of swayed this even more to make it as competitive as it is all the ads you've seen on the air, and that's because this is the most expensive U.S. House primary in history. Somewhere north of $30 million spent on this race. Congressman Massie has been very vocal about some of the backers of Ed Gallrein, in his words, those who what he calls the pro-Israel lobby, some pretty wealthy donors into the Gallrein campaign. So this is beyond just Trump. This is also typically what has become a very close partnership between Republicans on Capitol Hill and Israel, and those who support sending foreign aid to Israel. We know that that's something that Thomas Massie and, quite frankly, Rand Paul and others have been very much against, but that is going to be, or we have seen this, be kind of a real player in this, part of the reason why we're seeing many of those polls come in so tight.
All right, we just popped some early election results up. I just want to tell everybody, let's show that graphic again. Michael Adams is also posting on X, hey, we're counting, keep refreshing, Isaiah, you and I want to talk about voter turnout. We know from Michael Adams that we probably had low voter turnout here in the metro Louisville area. But in this district, 4th Congressional District, so much motivation. There were people from other states who came into Kentucky to campaign for Massie. They can't vote, but just goes to show you this enormous interest. Once again, I want to remind viewers, very early vote totals on the screen now. So what do you think about that, Isaiah?
Well, yeah, Doug, to your point, I mean, I talked with a 19-year-old who actually did vote for President Trump in 2024. He's from New York, actually drove 12 hours from New York to sort of the eastern part of Thomas Massie's district yesterday. And he said he's part of the local Republican Party in the city that he's from in New York. And all of them came down to help door knock, or many of them to help door knock for Thomas Massie. In his words, he believes that many young Republicans, sort of, I guess, depending on who you talk to, what analysts call these sort of young conservative activists, very much Constitution or bust minded, right? Constitutional rights is sort of top tier for them. Liberty Republicans, you could call them. They very much are motivated in this race. But to be fair to Ed Gallrein and sort of the support system behind that campaign, we've heard this at Massie events, largely with Massie supporters, a couple voters here and there go up to the mic and say, gosh, why are you giving the president such a hard time? Why do you time and time again stand in his way? And some of those voters were probably 50, 55 years old. Again, those voters who typically believe party unity is a big, big deal and are frustrated, at least now, by what Massie has done, at least in the last year or so. So again, just part of the reason why that sort of younger voter versus maybe some of the senior citizens voting in the 4th Congressional, how that could really be maybe the decider in this race, perhaps.
Okay, and you are at Andy Barr's headquarters. You and I are going to talk about him in just a little bit. Again, Andy Barr, so unknown to many people in Louisville until now, of course, with those ads. We're going to talk about why this race, Andy Barr and Daniel Cameron, seem to lose a little steam after that Trump endorsement. Isaiah will join you with that in a minute. Now let's go to Alex Dieterer. She is tracking the live election results in our special election studio tonight. And Alex, go ahead and show us the results. If you have any questions for Iris and David too, they are here. We can talk about what you're getting ready to pinpoint there for us.
All right, Doug, so as we've been tracking for the last about 40 minutes now since the polls have closed, it's still a very small margin of voters in their votes who have been in so far. So we're still looking at about 4% right here, but we can see that Ed Gallrein is in the lead right now. But as we said, again, only 4% reporting right now. But here in our area, we are looking at what we have here in Spencer County. They have gotten some numbers in for us right now. So what we are seeing in Spencer County is Gallrein taking the lead. But again, we need to take this all into perspective. Only 15, so 45 votes right now have been in so far. But as we've said from the beginning, I mean, this is the most expensive U.S. House primary that we've seen in American history. And that has to do with a lot of leadway that Trump's endorsement for Gallrein has gone. So we've seen kind of Thomas Massie and President Donald Trump not seen eye to eye. So Massie did have a big push for the release of the Jeffrey Epstein Files and then also voted against the One Big Beautiful bill. So we're really seeing a lot of Trump endorsement against or for Gallrein in that change. And so let's take a look right here. So again, we are only seeing about 4% polling right now. And then if we walk over here to the U.S. Senate race, which is another big race that we're all keeping a close eye on, we've only got about 2%. But again, here in Spencer County, which is in our area, about 40 votes so far. But we can see that Andy Barr has taken the lead here against Daniel Cameron. But what I want to mention, Doug, is that a lot of our eyes are going to be on Louisville and Jefferson County. So I actually spoke with Daniel Cameron yesterday at his 34th and final campaign stop in Elizabethtown in Hardin County, where he grew up. And I asked him, do you feel confident that you will win Jefferson County, and how important is it to win Louisville? He said it's always important to win Jefferson County because of how many votes are here, but he's also not only confident he'll win the Republican nomination for U.S. Senate, but also he's confident he will win Louisville and Jefferson County. Now, he spent most of his career here in Louisville, especially as Attorney General of Kentucky. But what we're seeing right now is a lot of backing for Andy Barr, who's been in office since 2012, and he also has the endorsement of Donald Trump. And so what we're seeing right now, again, only 3% down here in Laurel County. We're seeing more percentages come in from the lower part of Kentucky, and obviously anything can change here with only about 4% of the votes and the pollings in so far. But I mean, here, let's go back to the Congressional District 4. I mean, this is the big one, this national slim margin race. As these votes continue
Alex,
to come in, we will continue to watch. Yeah, Doug.
I'm glad you went back to this race. This is so fascinating. I could actually watch this map just all night long. We could just keep it on you. You're doing a great job. To explain to me how the map works for our viewers who are seeing this for the first time. The counties in yellow, are those the ones reporting the results? Is that what you're saying? And then, of course, there would be Spencer County right next to Metro Louisville.
Right, so here we do have Spencer County, and you can see it's more of an orange color, and you can see that orange correlates to Ed Gallrein. So what we're seeing when we see these colors is where the votes have been going as the results have been coming in. And a neat thing here at this map that we'll continue to show you throughout the stream and throughout the night tonight is this heat index. So what we see is these orange colors have dimmed a little bit, have gone a little bit more pastel, and that shows the heat, the number of votes for a candidate, for a nominee that have been here in these counties. So throughout the night, we will continue to see these colors getting darker and lighter depending on the number of votes that go for a candidate. So right now what we're seeing is just this orange color for Gallrein because again, only 4% have been coming in, but we'll continue to see this map of District 4 be spread with red and orange colors throughout the night, Doug.
The Spencer County going for Gallrein at the moment, not a surprise. Of course, he's from Shelbyville. Iris and David, I'll ask you real quick. Some of the other map colors, though, are also showing some Gallrein numbers coming in, even in the far eastern side of Thomas Massie's district where he's held a stronghold. Again, very early numbers.
Very early, and as I mentioned in our earlier segment, Doug, I'm particularly paying attention to Boone County. It is one of the more populous counties in the northern Kentucky, greater Cincinnati area. There's several highly populated, dense registrant of votes in Boone County that are some of us have watched for years, cycle over cycle.
Alex, if you're still there, can you punch up Boone County real quick? Of course, that's near the Cincinnati area. Those numbers ought to be coming up pretty fast. And David, as you're watching this too, Gallrein sort of taking the early lead with very small percentages in, about 4%.
Right. Yeah. It's still a little early, but the margin, you're seeing a fairly sizable margin right now. But it'll be like I said, the more populous counties haven't come in yet. If your Boone County's not in, we're seeing some numbers from Kenton County. Haven't seen any numbers from Campbell. So, and all of that is the Cincinnati suburb.
I know you all have some connections in those counties. So if you do any of that great investigative reporting work you both do, just bring it along. So